Call to order the meeting of the finance committee.
Please stand for the pledge of allegiance. The flag of the okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States and to the republic one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call for the council, please.
Mayor Donald Hewitt,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Marco Morales, Councilmember Mitch Lindemann,
Here.
Councilmember Dania Acosta, President, Councilmember Ray Shelton, Councilmember Michael Valdenegro,
Present.
Councilmember Jose Grijalva,
Here.
City Manager Ana Ortigo,
Present.
City Treasurer Luis Pedrosa,
President.
Mr. Mayor, for the record, Mayor Pro Tem Marco Morales and Councilmember Ray Shelton are excused, as well as the city attorney.
Thank you very much, Mr. Renner.
Thank you, Mayor. Roll call for the finance committee, please.
Mr. Mitch Lindemann,
Here.
Ms. Alex Boneo, Mr. Adam Bray,
Here.
Ms. Elisa Watson, Mr. Pete Cordova,
Here.
Mr. Michael Valdenegro,
Present.
Mr. Luis Pedrosa,
Present.
Mr. Alejandro Martinez,
Present.
Ms. Ana Ortigo.
Present.
Thank you. Item number 6, reading a proclamation for Mental Health Awareness Month. Mr. Costa, please do the honor.
Thank you, Mayor. First off, I'd like to thank you for signing the proclamation. Mental health is just I think something that we need to try to understand better for our whole community. Not just for those affected, but those that have family or friends that may suffer from mental health. So thank you so much for signing this proclamation. Whereas mental health is an essential component of overall well-being and is integral to leading a fulfilling and productive life. And whereas millions of individuals worldwide are affected by mental health conditions, including anxiety, depression, bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, and many others, often resulting in significant challenges in their personal, professional, and social lives. And whereas mental health conditions do not discriminate based on age, gender, race, socioeconomic status, or any other factor affecting individuals across all demographics and communities. And whereas Mental Health Awareness Month provides an opportunity for society to raise awareness about mental health, eliminate stigma, promote understanding, and emphasize the importance of seeking help and support. And whereas increasing public knowledge and understanding about mental health helps to dispel misconceptions and encourages early intervention, leading to better outcomes and improved quality of life for individuals living with mental health conditions. And whereas during Mental Health Awareness Month, communities, organizations, and individuals are encouraged to engage in educational activities, public discussions, and initiatives that promote mental health awareness, advocate for access to mental health services, and foster a supportive environment for those affected by mental health conditions. Now therefore be it resolved that Donald C. Hewitt, Mayor, and on behalf of the City of Douglas Council, do hereby proclaim May 2023 as National Mental Health Awareness Month, and call upon all citizens, organizations, healthcare providers, educational institutions, and government agencies to join in raising awareness about mental health, combating stigma, and promoting understanding and compassion. I urge everyone to support and participate in events, programs, and activities that promote mental health awareness, provide resources and information, and create an inclusive and supportive community for all individuals affected by mental health conditions.
Thank you, Mrs. Costa. And it's so true that we're affected by that all levels of mental health, and they're all real. If you're like me, raised in the time frame I was raised, it was just, strap up your boots a little bit tighter and get on with life. But I've come over the years to realize that it's real. And we need to be aware of that and encourage and support the family members, friends I need that help. Thank you. Item number 7, person wishing to address the council or the finance committee in writing quickly on the item on the agenda. We have it here. Mr. Bryant?
We do not, Mr. Mayor.
We do?
We do not.
Oh, not. Reverend Logan?
No,
Thank you. By the way, feel free to get up and wander around and grab a sandwich and do whatever you like. Make yourself at home, as they say. If you need a break, send them note down and whatever, and we'll take a break.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, please, Mr. Benjamin.
may I, for the record, point out that Ms. Leon is here?
Yay. Welcome. Item number 8 is presentation discussion. Item 8, budget presentation for fiscal year 2023, 2024.
Thank you very much. Mayor, members of the council, Mr. Chair, members of the finance committee. I'm happy to submit fiscal year 23-24 recommended budget. As you have in your packets today, we have a memo with several attachments and the public link that you will go through today. My memorandum and attachments set the tone and the basis for a positive and mental position that will be recorded and presented in today's session. I want to acknowledge the team effort made by our budget committee this year, who will help me present all of the items today. Mr. Lisa, those are the treasurer, that is the manager. Our city finance director, our board financial, Betina's worked, it seems to be endless hours the past couple of months, very long days. And we had not only the look that we typically have every year to put this together, we also had a challenge of training into a new system. And we had to learn that first and master it, and then jump in, as did all of our leadership that we have to present their budgets this year in the new system. So with that, we are happy to state that we have a very, very good and strong financial position. I'm eager to hear your comments and suggestions. We do have, towards the end of the presentation, some dates for follow-up on second reviews, and we will go through those dates, hoping for availability for everything that leads us then to tentative budget adoption. But just briefly, as I began, I'd like to state kind of the premise for our budget focus this year continue to be following the philosophy of remaining sustainable into future years as we grow, with growth being the key factor of our focus this year. Looking for efficiencies along the way, which is one of the reasons we have a new system, and in different processes and running processes to try and streamline as we move forward as well, and then aligning with Mayor Council vision. So,
I'm sorry, real quick. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask them during the presentation. But this is not the last one. So a question comes to your mind tonight at 1:30, like Pastor Pete always did.
right again,
Be happy to bring it up and ask that.
so very important, yes. And please, with that, we will do the same along the way to try and clarify things. And realizing you just received your packets, that's why I'm stating early on, and we have second reviews for each of the committees before this goes to kind of the consideration for the council. So we didn't sit up all night and to read an 11-page memo, but perhaps if you are needing to find something to sleep better, you'll do that in the next few minutes. So with that, that really sets the tone for moving forward. We're going to tag team the presentation between all of the budget committee members. And again, feel free to walk around with some food, ask questions along the way. And we shall get started. So I'm going to initially turn it over to Alejandro, our finance director. That is, I need to put packets in the folders to follow along with the minutes.
Good evening.
Going to take the first few slides, and we're gonna start with the fund balance position, which is where are we now as far as cash? Right now, our general government cash balance is 21,418,883. And then we have some money that is earmarked, restricted in those 21. And the list is right there. The unspent capital lease proceeds, our Alex Black Fund. And if you don't know what these are, please stop me at any point. We have money that is designated for police, $180,800. Some police vacancy savings we have been able to obtain for, again, vacancies in the police department. We now have $500,000 that are earmarked for our Food City building improvements that are underway. Capital carryover, our ARPA funding, we have $2.9 million left. The money that we have to set aside as a reserve for our PSR fund, bond, I should say, is $4,070,000. So our total from the 21 million, our total restricted cash is $9,044,985. So that's money that is earmarked for those specific purposes. You take the 9 million and then you go into our funding policy reserve. These are again mandated for our financial policies. We need to keep 45 days worth of operating reserve. Our capital reserve is 10% of our general fund revenue in average. And then our debt reserve, which is 1 year debt obligations. For our total policy reserve amount to 6.8 million. So that leaves us with a unrestricted fund balance of 5.5 million. This is as of,
Let me interrupt,
yeah,
I just want to put this out there, whether it fits here or anywhere else, but you know, the jail tax difference. And so I'm thinking, how is that going to affect our revenues and or our? So probably really to think it was. Put that out.
I'm going to add a comment to that.
Please.
Yeah, I would add a comment to Mr. Linden's point. I know when the half-cent sales tax that city council approved a few years back was passed, that was supposed to be temporary, and we haven't seen that temporary tax go back. So we are definitely going to be or are in the highest tax city in the state, and for as small of a town as we are here in Douglas, I don't think that we can afford to have that. I think for economic purposes, it's just not appealing to anybody who want to come in and do it. I'd like to see us revisit that half-cent and see if we can scale that back.
Yes, please. Mr. Martinez, you mentioned the ARPA funding, so I know we made it public that for the streetscape is 1.2 million. Could you educate the public and maybe those who don't know what the rest of it is restricted to, and also on the fund balance, the funding policy reserves, how much by law we're supposed to have compared to how much we have now in the surplus of any.
Mr. Councilman Rehab, for your first question, well, let me answer the second question. I'm not aware of by law what we need to keep as far as reserve. These are strictly policies that we have enacted financially within the city of Douglas. which totaled at $6.2 million. These are financial policies that we have adopted. And so that's what that represents, has nothing to do with any state law or anything. And then as far as our money, yes, that is earmarked exclusively, I don't have this here with us tonight, and we did, but it is earmarked for certain capital projects. All right, such as with council.
The ARPA funding. Sorry, the ARPA funding, is there a expiration date on those funds? If we don't use them, is there a deadline by when we need to use those?
I will refer that to the treasurer.
Yes, good evening, Mayor, Council Planning Committee members. This is the book that for the city of Douglas, we were awarded about a little bit over $4 million. That fell under the $10 million threshold, which allowed more flexibility to use funds. So we were able to fall in that category of under $10 million distribution. That gave us a lot more flexibility to be able to utilize those funds and declare them as lost revenue.
Okay.
So because we did that, now we have the flexibility. However, we have allocated that money for certain capital projects. But as far as reporting wise and things like that, we have, but
So we met the reporting requirements to the federal government, that money was.
that's correct.
Okay, perfect, thank you. And then one more question, the Alex Black Fund, I don't remember what that is, if I need to, if you can tell me what that is for.
Yes, yeah. It was a donation that was made to the city for fallen firefighter. So it was a donation and we hold that money and then we use it as.
We don't never use, but it's there and it's restricted. That's why it's in the restricted fund, because the gentleman, Mr. Alex Black, said that those funds shall only be utilized to take care of any families that fallen firefighters and line.
Perfect, thank you.
It's one of those things that it's nice to have, but we never have.
Correct.
Mr. Black was those of you may not know, was a retired firefighter from New York. He came out here and loved firefighters, and that's why he's part of this. And before he passed, he said this stuff, so we can benefit here.
Thank you.
I have a question. You said that ARPA funding was designated to allocated for special, to fund special projects. Is there any way later that we can know which projects we're doing? Not right now, so later.
Yes,
Read about it.
they will be included in your packets. Budgets for that initiative. Oh,
I'm sorry, can you please give me your mic, sorry, so that we can record them. And we are going to be taking a lot of all the questions, so we can make sure that everyone's answered, their minutes to answer it, and they're correct.
Yes. Thank you for the opportunity. You mentioned that there are funds have been allocated to fund special projects, and I was wondering if you can learn about which projects have been funded or which ones are in the line of funding.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What I can direct everyone to is on our attachments, and the attachment for these for capital improvement program. Lists all of our work fund earmarks, and that would be where you can reference to see where we should schedule for small capital improvements.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so this next slide talks about some of our revenue numbers. Sales tax, as of February 2023 is 33% above projection, which is a very good number. Actuals compared to last year were up 16%. Or 909,000 as of the same time period, which is February 2023. Overall, general fund revenues are 8% above budget projections. Again, very good number, and we are projecting to finish our fiscal 23 year with a $2 million surplus. The graphics on the right side of that slide represent, the green represents last year sales tax versus the blue line, which is this year. So every single month, it's been above last year's pace. You can see that it peaked in December, which is fairly normal. So that's a visual that you can actually see how sales tax is behaving this year compared to last year. And then the bottom graph talks about actual versus budget. We budgeted very conservatively. We should be around 5 million. We're at 6.7 million as of February. This next slide is educational in nature, just a reminder for maybe for a few of you. This is how we allocate or how we structure our funds within the city. We have our general fund that captures general fund, airport, offers, and housing. But housing is has been transferred to the county. Again, public safety, public works, parks and rec, admin, everything falls under general fund. How that is funded is again taxes, station revenue, permit, all the revenue that we get for general fund. And then we have our special revenue funds. This is our HERB, transit, refill, capital projects, and the debt service fund. These are funds designated exclusively for a certain use, and normally they're designated by law, state law. How these funds are funded is gas tax, grants, insurance, capital, and debt. The other pot is there are enterprise funds. So this is, if you will, your business enterprises in some way, the water, sewer, and sanitation. And again, these are business type activities that we run within the city, separate from the general fund. And how this is funded is through our user revenue, our water rates, primarily. And then we have the one internal service fund, which is our self-funded insurance fund. And that is funded by both the city and the employee, I should say. So again, just a brief recap on how.
I'd like to throw in another question.
Sure.
I am remembering that last year we wanted to cover the employees' costs. We still do that this year?
Yeah, and that will be covered in a few slides. We're proposing to cite these as well. You'll see that in the next few slides.
Thank you.
Yes. Our state share of revenue for fiscal year 24, our new budget, we are proposing or we are projecting a $1.4 million increase in our general. That comes from our share of revenue. These are income tax primarily. And then HERB, this is a number that we get from partners at the Arizona League of Cities and Towns projection. For our HERB, we are expecting a decrease in funding of $50,000. For our sales tax, we are proposing and projecting a $1.5 million increase from last year in our projections, or 18.75%. Keep in mind, we have a couple of sale of properties, city-owned properties that will also generate some revenue. Rancho La Perilla Apartments will yield about $1 million, and council has directed that we invest that into the golf course. So that should be coming up this year, as well as the airport or the property situation, which will generate about $2 million. Just a couple of notes on that. We live in a very high interest rate world at this time, which makes it a little bit hard to borrow money. But as far as investments, we've seen a very good year. We're projecting this to continue. We are projecting $400,000 from our investments, primarily on LGIP accounts. Again, a big increase from last year. It's indicative of the current behavior of those funds. And also, we're projecting a $200,000 increase in annual revenue. So these are our projections in our proposed budget for any
Mr.
questions? Yeah.
If there are no questions, I just wanted to also add a little to the state share revenue portion. There was a $1.4 million increase in my memo. I stated that we are assuming that only about half of that is sustainable revenue, only because we know that we expect a reduction in that income tax distribution as part of the governor's tax plan that reduces taxes for some revenues and lag. So we're not counting on that as sustainable revenue as we plan forward. We're only to about half of that for sustainable type recommendations, the other for one-time distribution type of. And I know the question goes back to also the sales tax and the city did with the house sales tax, so that also came from the most recent finance committee meeting, and we can certainly talk through that. This was one of the moving cautious, but certainly forward with some of those.
I just wanted to ask a quick question on the fees increase at all due to fossil fuel and stuff like that?
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Mayor, no, the rates have not.
They need to be reviewed. Chief, are we in that? Yeah, it's the review. I don't think it's here. Oh, I'm here. There's no review.
Mr. Mayor, Chair, those get looked at about the December, January time period where we can approach Arizona Department of Health Services if there's an increase in the medical CPI index. We have the opportunity to raise it by that percentage increase. So that's when we get the opportunity to review. Thank you.
As we continue to look at that $86 million balance budget and where the money is coming from, we're projecting a $46 million amount in grant revenue. That is our projection, which will include budgeting for $687,000 worth of grant action. Some of the key requests that the staff is working on is the $50 million raised grant commercial street resurfacing. $8.9 million from the state ARPA for POE for affordable entry. That's actually been awarded by outgoing Governor Bruce before he left office. And then $6 million in congressional directed spending. This is our Chino Road expansion money. And a couple of one new well for the entry fund. Let's talk briefly about smart state tax. This is the legalization of marijuana tax. The 16%, it's a state share revenue, and we're projecting $130,000 will be earmarked for these required.
With the legalization of marijuana, I know that the city was part of that lottery, and we got one of the few permits that were allotted. Is there any development, or can we get maybe at a future date some updates on that as to, you know, if we know why they haven't opened that dispensary here, or you know, what the plans are for the owners of that permit?
Yes, Mayor, Councilman Douglas, we can absolutely circle back. As recent as maybe 3 or 4 months ago, we had 2 that we needed to move on for, the Douglas area. So we have to circle back to see where the other thing is. But I'm aware that we have 2 that are continuing in the same site in our, gunshots and we're assigned to open up and dispensary.
So some of the major changes as far as expenditures that are being proposed is adding the HRIS system for our HR department that will help us do our online application process, our onboarding for new employees, things of that nature. We're also increasing mayor and council individual accounts by $1,000 each. We are actually also experiencing an increase in almost $22,000 with our consolidated support costs. And when it comes to development services, there was an increase of $40,000 for historical preservation projects. They were also proposing in this budget. And also a big increase of $200,000 for black and demolition projects as well from development services. We are also assigning $30,000 for operation and maintenance of our Food City building that we just acquired, similar to what we do with the call center building as well. And overall increases in inflation costs for materials and gasoline, things of that nature. So these are the major drivers of expenditures. Any questions?
No questions, but I just want to make a clarification, like, my comment about legalization of marijuana, my personal needs. It's just, obviously, there is very good revenue out of those dispensaries.
And that's my fault, because I told her I qualify. She was asking for me.
Mr. Martinez, is it still, Food City, was that 500,000 that we directed for that, maintenance and operation?
Chairman, Mr. Mayor, the 900,000 was to acquire and then 500,000 for improvements.
Right.
And then up to 600,000. These 30,000 are separate items to keep up with the property while we still own it. It's not being rented like the call center. So this is to operate the building while it's vacant. We're quite trying to find.
So that issue didn't change.
I'm sorry.
It didn't change, then the 500,000 we were gonna put.
No.
It had changed.
It's completely separate.
Thank you.
With that, I'm going to turn this over to our HR manager. She'll continue with the presentation. Thank you.
Good evening, and members of the council and the committee. As far as personnel, we do have some options that we're providing in the budget. We have provided a right of bid, either or, it's a 2% COLA for non-minimum wage employees, or a 1% COLA and a one-time distribution of $100 for each employee. It is gonna cost the general fund around $104,000.
Is this for council to vote on eventually? On which direction?
But it would be an option for you. The other thing that we have in the budget is, an estimated minimum wage increase. The minimum wage increase are based on the CPI from August, prior to the new year. So far, we know that it's going to be at least a 3% increase, so we're looking at a minimum wage paid at $14.25. So it could be higher. The next 3 months.
If I can interject on my personal feeling, I would like to see a 2% plus the 500 one-time ones.
We can make that whatever we possibly, but
No, but it will impact.
And just a quick comment. So this, philosophy, I just heard about it and it makes a lot of sense. I think we all know that minimum wage is not a living wage in almost all circumstances. And the theory or the idea of a, there's a minimum wage, a living wage, and a thriving wage. And obviously, I know that, we're probably not in a financial position to offer thriving, but it's something, that I hope will be considered in the future, or to try to build towards at least a living wage, minimum wage, increases and, inflation and all kinds of things, but then everything else increases. So in reality, there's not a whole lot that really helps, employees who are on minimum wage. So my other comment, to that would be, non-minimum wage employees. Why are we not looking at also providing 2% to minimum wage?
Because we're being expected that they're gonna receive a 3% increase in January, on top of the minimum wage. And in fact, there's also an initiative they're looking to bring back to the ballot of increasing the minimum wage to $18 per hour in 2025. So those are the things I'm going to look at, and if that happens, a lot of our positions are not going to be below minimum wage, at least the starting range for that. So we have to be very careful of that, but the possibility to bring those positions above that. And then we have that coming out as well.
So if I may interject also. If we get to 18%, already the 3% is causing our reaching market plan to speed up some of the adjustments, because we don't want that compression. We want to decompress that and avoid that our hourly wage and minimum wage don't even catch up to some of our employees and some of our lower wage employees. So if we get to the $18 point, then everything we've done in our 3-year plan for reaching market suddenly becomes, faster pace that we have to catch up to. So even more important, to try and get to a point where, similar to your driving wage concept, to lead market. We're still driving market. We're trying to at least meet market, with the goal, I think, ultimately is to try and lead market so that we have those things to occur. We don't have a big catch up to make. Just a point there. And then also, we will look into living wage concepts, for council consideration. I'm familiar with the concepts, and generally that's community-wide issues, not organizational, so we can bring some stuff here.
Question. Mrs. Pedrosa, how many would be affected by the first option, the non-minimum wage employees?
For the 2% quota?
Yeah.
It's most of our employees. We have about, I would say, 150 total employees. And I would think that we have about 30 minimum wage, 190 employees. I would say that 2% more.
I'm with Mr. Lindeman on this, but I'd like to bring my own suggestion up. We usually give them $1,000. And even with that $1,000, they get taxed on it, so they don't actually get 1,000. I think last time I did it, they were on 600 or 500 or so. So I like to bring up the 2% COLA, but also instead of 500 to 1,000, so we can appreciate them enough. Because with inflation and all that, and if we don't even know how inflation is going to get next year. So if it starts getting worse, I mean, it's wiping all this out, and I think we need to support our employees as best as we can. Thank you.
And that's the main thing that, if we do the 2% and the 1,000, it would be an additional 184,000 costs to the budget. Then we have to find somewhere, take away from somewhere to get to that. So as far as the FINA funding, we're talking about cater packets we have attached to the food that show the FINA funding we brought to you last year. We did make some revisions and they're highlighted for you. So those that are highlighted in yellow are the ones that we hadn't revised because of the minimum wage and the one that we get concession. And then there's two positions that are highlighted in blue, police officer and dispatcher, because it's been really hard to recruit for these positions. We were at we currently are actually filled at a 50% vacancy for dispatchers. And we lost about 4 or 5 vacancies from the police officers. And it's not that we're trying, it's just, it's been hard for people to actually meet the background. And the interest is not as much there, so we are trying to get to market, so that's why we're addressing those two positions specifically. It's gonna be an additional 100,000 for everybody in their police officer or for this.
That, I know that, the city operates on a step, plan as far as raises are concerned. Is that, by statute or charter, or is that?
Mayor, that's not what, that's not by statute or charter, that's the, plan established by our long-time personnel system, hiring system, and it's by longevity, and it could very well be in open range, with a city our size and activities of those, types of open range policies, we would, it would take quite a bit to get us to that point, we create structured policies to ensure we do. And the difficulty with that is that it has been so long standing under the American principle that it's almost like eliminating something that it could generally, when I've seen pay changes or pay systems change or that's compensation systems change, it's through an evolution of attrition. So, lying on the cement, moving forward, there's a little bit of concept, but goes a little bit and continue in class. Because it is seems a little different.
Right, and I guess my reason for asking that is just, I really feel that, performance-based, raises should, should be something to look at. Because I think government has that, we all have that misconception of government, that government jobs are cushy jobs that people just come to every day and they know they're gonna get a pay raise just for being here, rather than, the efforts and, meeting expectations. So it would be great to see, maybe we change the perception of our city and, employees, as well as, encourage people's performance. And I realize that maybe not all, positions could benefit from that, just due to their duty, but, it could, at least departmentally be applied. So, that's just my comment.
Thank you.
The next slide talks about the personnel requests that we had, all the directors. There was a total of different positions that were requested. A lot of them, no, some of them had compensation. So those were not funded for this year, but we know that they should be considered for future years. So after that, we had 14 that we recommended for approval of the cost for $840,000. Most of these are just limited data additions because of the annual, how our revenues will flow through the coming years. But we do have to do permanent positions that we requested to be funded again. They have already been approved, they were just not funded for a few years. So they're requested to be funded again. And these positions are going to cover areas of environmental enforcement, like maintenance, facilities maintenance, related capital improvement projects. There's one for police accreditation for golf course, and also changing an accounting from a part-time to I know there's some people wanting to talk a little bit more about the light of it, creative component.
And I think the blight effect that also nestled in these positions is something we're referring to as a betterment fee. So all of these positions, the majority of them are our field staff. Once we're able to, and we've been able to amass not only grants in the amounts that we shared initially, huge grants that we were expecting, and amounts that we've been able to recommend for capital projects. We have the opportunity with some of these new revenues to add crews to be able to capture some unmanned capital improvements. Mayor and council already started that direction by allowing us in some of the prior new structures to separate divisions. For example, facilities maintenance to streets. We now have an 11 crew streets crew focused specifically on streets and no longer having to share their workload with maintenance and facilities. So that in and of itself will be a big improvement, but one thing that we have aside from just general code enforcement issues is light issues, and together to work in collaboration with those efforts. I'm recommending a betterment crew for right-of-way cleanup of the community, more than image focus that Mayor and Council directed for the community, and we've been far behind and very, very restricted on resources to do that. We have Department of Correctional activities that come out on occasion and help clean up, especially after monsoons. We know what monsoons do to our week, and it takes months to even capture that. So this is a crew that will only do that full time and help keep a cleaner look in the community, but still working with some contracted work that we have planned into the budget and a new system also in the enforcement of have better metrics and better planning on how we're accomplishing and reaching goals in the area.
When you're able to find a list of all the positions, I have to agree on that. And I'm going
Reading, Mayor, President, FINA committee members. Well, I'm gonna talk about the capital improvement program. The peaceful, entry package should be the attachment for that current year, 22. Then, you will either, see the total. Then, for each year, we complete 26. One of the things that we didn't spend on the presentation, you'll be able to use this interactive tool we added to the presentation. Then if you click here, for example, on the slide when you have the presentation in front of you, you're gonna see you'll be able to see the detail of which projects is being completed. If it's being completed, you're gonna see that this paragraph has been completed. Then you can have a detail and amount, for those projects. As well, we put as a different status of these projects, it's in progress, carry over. That means that project is being working on it, but it's not being completed, and we're gonna carry over for this next fiscal year. Then if you take as well there, if you can go there, you'll be able to see the 60.30 that and the amounts. Some of those they're having working on it, but they're still not reflecting any amount. It's zero just because it's and that update is for May. Then the ones for carry over, they're 7. If you click on it as well, you'll be able to see the 7 projects there.
they're all zero, it means they're not being organized for some different reasons, they're not being funded. I mean, it's more about based on the inflation and the different situations, there being the capital, even capital growth projects. For example, we got in sports, the amount right now is bigger than what we wanted last year. That's why they're here, but they're gonna be carrying over this year and then I can see after being done. And the one in progress, they're just free, that means they're being paid or they already being our place, and that's why they're a big issue. And now we're gonna move to the new years, the capital program for 2023-24. As you see it over there, the total amount for capital reserve is 9 million. That includes capital contingency about the airport scale land. It's gonna be 2 million for that one, but that means we don't gonna, if we don't sell those land, we don't gonna use that land. One of the things here is the carryovers, as you see for the last slide, we take the carryovers as well. We'll be able to see exactly which one they're being carried over. And then we're able to see details for what the money is going to be and that project specifically for one of the amount. As well for the new projects that are being requested this year, here. And if the economy will be able to see, then the total price is going to be 84 total, then the new requested this year is 60. Something you have?
No, I think this is, thank you, Lord, and this is if you open these electronically, then you have a paper set there. You can kind of go through even the pie charts, click on the pie chart, certain areas, and then you have different data, so we are in a new system that allows us not only to analyze things as we move forward, but able to on the spot show you the activity and prepare. So this is one of the efficiencies that we've been able to reach and to manage overall is to show these activities.
I would make a comment on that. Thank you so much. I know that actually there's a member here of my committee that asked me for a list of this a while back ago. So I'm glad that we finally have this. Is there any way to share this tool, or is it already being shared on our website so that we can see what our budget is for capital improvements and go through the list and see where we're at and what projects are.
Yeah, I think we can share with them. We can create a specific user for the data to access it and do all the.
So I think this active link, this active link, just the way it's on our PowerPoint, it can be placed on the website as well.
Yes,
There should be something that we can incorporate. Well,
I may ask a question as well, only because this is the only question my wife wanted me to ask tonight. The tennis courts, does that involve any pickleball courts?
good question. So one of the, say yes, please. One of the challenges that we have with the tennis courts is that we put 80,000 in the budget last year, and we got the quote to restore that in excess of 400,000. So it's a block. What we're looking at now is a few things. So Parks Master Plan is underway, and pickleball courts is something that we're asking to consider into that, where does it make sense, what is the community speaking, is it surveying bodies, everywhere I will follow my grandkids around in sports, there's pickleball everywhere, so yes, we are looking at, however, possibly not restoring the current tennis courts, because our understanding from that report, which are foundational elements that are what we're comparing now is it more cost effective to rebuild? And if that, then we have some analysis to do and what to do with those kind of works. But we were shocked by seeing the difference that came back. So we'll keep you posted on the different ones.
About, well, the CIP projects, that was brought up by Mr. Bray. I know this is a council member project and he's very passionate about it. But to see the Raul Castro statue on the CIP, when the finance committee voted to eliminate it 2 years ago. You know, the fact that it's on here and a rec center isn't on here, something for our kids to go to, something indoors during monsoon season or winter season, they're not gonna go play outside. And again, the schools are charging the city to have, some events using their gyms. I think that has to be a priority right now, especially when we have so much tax revenue. I mean, every year, we put new positions in there, we raise the spending and we're still getting around $2 million of surplus. So I think that we have to be thinking about the community and that's a necessity. And a lot of these things are, we're gonna have a discussion on it at some point again, but like the streetscape. We had Douglas Days at Raul Castro Park and the northeast entrance. I mean, the sidewalks were horrible. There were liability, cracks, somebody could have tripped. We need to start focusing on that stuff, preparing, and then, putting stuff that we need for the community, like a rec center, and then talk about beautifying and doing these other things. The statue is a nice idea. I'm not gonna knock it. But right now, I don't think it should be up in here as a priority, and there's other things that we could put on there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Back has for one more slide, and this is regarding the self-funded insurance. We did self-funded for the last 10 years, and we have been able to reserve 1.2 or close to 1.3 because it is needed to have those reserves that we need to use for any time or any years and we're going to have unexpected additional increases or plans. We've had a few years when we've had very good plans, so we need to be able to discuss that. Saying that this past current year, we've been doing well in our health insurance, and this woman of our personal year committee, a 3% increase, where industry wide indicators are from 5 to 10%, even 15 a month of place. So what we are recommending is just a 3%, and that translates into for employee only from 616 only to 634 a month, and this is covered by the employer. The employee doesn't have to pay anything monthly. This is for the basic. We have other ones that probably the higher would have to pay. But and for family, we're recommending for the premium from the employer, 1,090 to 1,031.86. That translates to $30.60 monthly, more for the city contribution. But for the employee, that also goes to $488.10 a month to $502.74, which is $14.54 monthly increase to the employee. If we wanted to cover if we wanted the employer to cover that, those $14 for it stays flat for the employee and the family rate. It would be about a cost of 15,000 to the fund, to go on the income.
Yes.
The living status employees have insurance.
I'm sorry.
Living status employees, do they have insurance?
All full-time employees have insurance. If they're limited status, and they're meet the definition of full-time, which is 30 hours or more, they will have.
So the employee would be full insured. The living status at 30 hours a week. The senior employee would be guaranteed 30 hours.
For the full-time employees that we have budgeted,
Living status people that you're finding or hiring that you're supposed to be hiring. All people
yes, those are full-time for me.
living status.
That's right.
Ms. Phillips, I have a question. I know we cover the city covers everything, but is there, I'm just gonna come out and say it, for those who have like Leslie cancer, does this plan cover them or do they have to pay those out of their own fund for treatments and when the specialist.
The plan covers everyone, depending on whatever plan they choose. And they have either $750 deductible, $1,000 deductible, or $5,000 deductible. So it depends on the plan that they have. We have a stop loss insurance that helps us cover anyone that has high claim. So the city ends up paying maybe for any member and end up paying up to $70,000 a year. So we do have someone that, those are events where they are using the insurance more. The stop loss insurance covers anything beyond $70,000 for 1 year, so that the city doesn't have to pay, up to $1 million into this. So we do have that coverage that covers those high claims. And sometimes the insurance, the stop loss insurance will laser out some high claims that they've done, but in the past horizon, if they have their riskier members, as they call them, then they're gonna increase that threshold and maybe 100,000, maybe 110, instead of what they consider that on the road first.
If I may clarify, also last year we did cover the increase through the self-insurance fund. You don't remember the exact amount, anything about 17,000. So this year it's about 15,000. I may bring back a consideration for taking that from an employer perspective, but not necessarily from the self-insurance fund, possibly in the general fund. So we'll kind of do that analysis because over time, keep in mind that every claim that comes in being self-insured, that fund pays directly that your insurance company. So we have to also reach certain levels over time to make sure that you're in a position. We have protections. Self-insurance and insurance protects shock claims and large claims. But you have 1 year where you have several of those that we always have to be anticipating and be covered. So this is minimally small impact. So we'll come back on some options for it.
We'll bring it over to Mr. Phil.
Very much. We began and the council, we move on now to the enterprise fund, starting with the water fund. On the revenue side of things, we're projecting a 7% increase. We'll get to the rate adjustments that our program will go into effect for the next 5-year plan. We're now in year 2. Next year, for the budget will be year 3. And we are seeing, as Mr. Martinez mentioned, a better return on our investment earnings. So that increase in revenue is associated with all of those 2 items, excluding, of course, all grant revenue. On the capital side of things, we have many exciting projects in water. Well 18, we are carrying over that project. That's a new well. We borrowed $2.1 million. Treat that well. We are needing to carry that over to the next fiscal year. Well 14 that we have and adding arsenic treatment to that well. We'll continue to work through that. 438,000 for that, and half of that is something that we're going to achieve with grant funding. So the 488 is something that we will be responsible for. The roof on the reservoir east of the airport road needs replacement. We gotta cover that reservoir with a copper roof. Backup generator for well 16, we're in process, we're in procurement for that. That's another one that, just logistics and things are kind of getting in the way for us to really get that done this fiscal year, so we're carrying that over. Your Allegra side of town, new booster pumps are needed to pump that water uphill. The SCADA, we've got a Congressional Director Study grant for that, and we do expect a match component for that project. SCADA is basically a water system that computer system that controls all of our water levels. So there's just any issues with water quality, things like that. It needs to be upgraded and replaced. our downward trail transmission line. That's an aging line that is to be replaced. It's a critical line for our system that, feeds from that reservoir is the dump truck, water department, borrows from streets projects and sometimes there are conflicts with that, they're looking for a new dump truck. We need to do, mandated inspections of our three, elevator storage tank, that's about $35,000. Make sure that they're clear. Automatic flush system, again, just to help us with efficiencies that we can flush, our system for whatever reason, with an automatic system. And this is just another, carryover, because the utility bill office. And finally, well, in sharing with the cemetery, and looking to, get that. And by the way, those are fund balance. The water division has that fund balance to be able to pay for those capital improvement projects. Next, we move on to the port of entry related grants. We have two. We are setting aside $1.5 million of the total $8.9 million that was awarded to the state ARPA grant for water and sewer design. We expect, based on the timeline that we developed for the port of entry, that we would probably spend about $2 million between water and sewer. So we're budgeting 1.5 on the water side, 1.5 on the sewer side, and giving ourselves a cushion there in case we need more funds. The congressional directed spending for the new well is there as well, and in the budget. Other grant requests, the USDA grant that I mentioned for well 14, and the WIPA loan for well 18, the 2.1 million that we borrowed, actually 588,000 of that is forgivable principal. So it's like a grant. And I also mentioned the data system, the $850,000 congressional directed spending plan. New initiative for this budget year is to put together a CIP crew to handle a lot of the smaller projects, line replacements, as well as line extensions, and just getting this crew outfitted so that we don't have to contract these jobs out, getting more work done within our resources and our means. For new CIP, already pre-existing, that's 27 personnel, that's a pretty decent team there to be able to do some damage out there. Any questions on water? On to the sewer, very similar to water, 6% projected increase in revenue. And we are seeing the impact fees also come in with buildings, with rebuilding permits coming in and start those impact fees, as well as investment earnings. As far as the capital side, most of this is also funded through fund balance. We are trying to furnish that CIP crew with the proper equipment, a new backhoe, a new dump truck, trailers, flatbed trailers. All of those are to equip these new personnel. We're also trying to replace the AC in the lab for the wastewater treatment plant, and also SCADA system for the DOC. Lift station out there, that is something that we would have DOC pay for, but it is in the budget to get that revenue back. Again, more efficiencies, the SCADA system would alert us of any issues with the lift station, as opposed to us having to check on those systems with a person having to go out there.
Commissioner, crew of CIP on water and on the sewer, they're gonna be separated.
Mr. Letterman, Mayor,
Good question. This will be a combined crew. They'll be funded by both funds, working on both water and sewer projects. So, just again, due to funding, we have to combine them, but they'll be able to, again, with more resources, be able to have more to actually work on.
Because this year, as you know, we've had some difficulties at the school. You know, with the sewer system and all that stuff, Huber and Stevenson and on the site. But my other question is, it's been a while since we've talked about including the people on Ninth Street, Van Buren down to the airport. We put them on the city. And, you know, it's been talked about, I just don't know if we can bring that up again.
Mayor, Mr. Lumen, that is a great candidate for this type of crew, smaller project, you know, a few blocks. Certainly, the project would need some engineering, but certainly I think we can, if we can get that engineering completed, I think that's a great candidate type of project that we're looking for CIP crews.
Oh, that's very good. I don't know, why would we need, we don't trust, pump of water, and not know what sewer. Because on your slide, you have available for water, and we have nothing on truck for sewer. Plus, I thought last year, sewer bought a backhoe. And here we're showing no backhoe here, for another purpose.
Yes, Mr. Lazanero, first question about the dump truck, the water field, would like a dump truck for their maintenance. And then the construction crew, the CFP crew are requesting a dump truck as well for their CIP projects. The backhoe again, that is, I don't recall that it was for sewer. We bought a backhoe for water and a backhoe for construction crew, our facility maintenance, last year. So this one again would be dedicated for the CIP, crew.
I was, like, the coordinator, whatever, AC unit, the sewer needs, I think it's about $57,000. And for the, but, the one you got it, back of AC unit, and the following this belt that this year, this year. And then, connected. Purchase it.
Mr. Lazanero, I'll have to get back to you on that one. I'll have to do some research there.
Okay, it doesn't make sense to go along with that. I know the lab needs one for the people. Also for the equipment, we have tons of equipment that is to be air conditioned before. Power outage will be back. It's a dollar replace. Or $57,000 unit to automatically just be brought into planning as a backup.
Continuing with the grant, I mentioned the other half of the $3 million, but the total $8.9 million budgeted here to fund for the water and sewer design for the POE. And again, the CIP crew be shared with water. Next is our sanitation fund. Our capital improvements include 96 and 300 gallon cannon. Again, that's just normal wear and tear replacement as needed. We are also being directed to put in the metal building, cover the wash pad for ADQ regulations where we're washing those vehicles and street sweepers. We have to keep those areas contained. Therefore, we have to enclose our current wash pad. We're also
also trying to outfit a station where we can chip using our chipper. Basically getting some containers, an area where we can work out of and be able to perform these potentially community events or city cycling that can take place for large limbs that, you know, end up in the land and trying to avoid those spots. Other initiatives, we're basically proposing an increase to the tipping fees, the transfer fees. And basically it's another ADQ requirement that the sweeper waste, when the sweeper goes out of sweeps, it's not the normal waste, it's oily, so it must be put in the landfill directly, therefore we have to incur those fees for transportation and both for those tipping fees to be able to dispose of that waste properly. We are seeing some salary savings from moving the code enforcement back to the general fund, using one half of the code enforcement officer because a lot of those issues were in sanitation related area, but that code enforcement area is not being funded through the general fund. And again, as I mentioned, we're exploring any like the chipping, any recycling reuse programs in the sanitation.
I have a question. So you said we're replacing the 300 gallon distance commercial, right? Are we just going to basically drop them off in the property and say, you know, here's a new can, or are we going to swap them for the old trash can?
Mr. Grano, Mr. Mayor, we are replacing those as needed. If it's normal wear and tear, we can swap them out. If it's damage caused by the user, we can charge it back to the user. That's determined, and we also use these for new homes. New people that come on board, we have to have hands ready for those new times.
I'd like to have a number maybe in the next meeting on how much it would cost to replace everybody's. And then not take it back, but just say, hey, now you have 2 trash cans. Because I'm walking every weekday to the gym, I see the same thing. There's over, you know, that they put too much, the lid doesn't close, and we don't find them. And it just looks horrible, it smells horrible. They have 2 trash cans, I think then we can have the incentive of, listen, you have enough room, now we're gonna start, you know, here's a warning, here's a fine. And then I think that that's gonna help, you know, the appearance of our streets and our city. So I like the idea of, you know, if we could get a number and see how much it would cost to replace all of them, just give somebody an extra one and say there's no more excuses. Now we're going to fine you if you don't comply with our code.
Thank you.
Being that we're lucky to be a border community and our neighbor to the south, I'm not sure if it's cost efficient to maybe explore their recycle processes, or if they're interested in the scrap metal and any other type of recyclables. I know that people come into the US, and especially here in Douglas, look for scrap metal in alleyways and trash and things like that, and take it back south to sell. So is that something that as city government we're not able to do, or can we explore that option to see if there is any way to maybe minimize our waste, and you know, it would be a win-win situation for, you know, maybe some of the recycling centers in Mexico. Thank you.
Mr. Rhodes, can we also find out you know, during trash days, there's some trash trucks that, you know, you don't even know that they're in the street, and then there's other ones that are shrieking and they look like they're in low condition. Can we find out how much one costs and see when the last time we replaced them? So we don't, because I worry we might be like Bisbee, I don't know if you all remember Bisbee, their trash truck broke down, they didn't know what to do, I think we lent them Mars or rented them Mars. So maybe if we have an extra one, or we could be swapping them out and then selling the old ones, just to keep up with the condition. I think that'd be an interesting idea, so we appreciate the numbers.
Yeah, Councilmember Gonzalez, yeah, we do have 2 backup trucks. Currently, used ones, in case, one breaks down. And, cost of truck is, greater than 300,000, and then right, a truck. So the 2 used ones have come in handy, we didn't pay full price for them, but certainly they get us out of the line, it's still automated, we're able to get them out.
You know, if I may, we've discussed about, the recycling, programs, and they do have those in Tucson. You know, and I see it all the time in the paper and in the Star, and, you know, they recycle plastic and they make park benches, and I don't know. That would be for us, what do we do? They have a glass crusher, and it's what they have over here. I did a little research on glass crusher, and at the time it was $6,000 for the initial. And then you would, I guess, market the glass, which we can't make a mention of that, but those type of things, I wonder if that would be helpful for us.
I'd just like to add that, those recycling programs, at least with the city of Tucson, are, at an expense to the consumer, to the residents, for them to have their own receptacle. So I don't know that our citizens are ready to incur that kind of expense, or if it would even be feasible. But yeah, I mean, whatever we can do to reduce the amount of waste that we're putting into our transfer stations and landfills, and even
Well, then again, it's pretty, I get all my information from this, Tucson paper. Ward 6,000, something, have 3 different drop areas for plastic. This constituent can go and throw their plastic in there and not in the landfill. Well, I think that's beneficial.
We can look into both options. He also has a glass machine.
Thank you. Moving on to the special revenue fund highlights. The first one is curb, the street fund. For capital, we are proposing the street program, 226,123. As you know, that's typically the net of the revenue that we get, which is about 1.6 million this year, versus our O&M operating expenses, basically paying the street lights, traffic lights, our personnel, all of those costs. That was our net this year, 226,000, that goes into the streets program, improvement program. And then we are proposing this year to increase, add an additional $700,000 for street improvements. Potentially, we're looking to contract some of that work out and get some work done in our streets. Some smaller capital that we're looking at is the post sign driver, post new signage, traffic control cones and verification safety devices, and the utility sign service equipment. So we're looking at about $1,021,000 in capital for purpose being proposed. Other initiatives in this budget is seeking to purchase a new asphalt plant. As you know, our asphalt plant is old. Really finicky. Really, this does not give us the volume or output that we would like. I'm looking for another asphalt plant. We're projecting about a $2 million cost, so we're seeking a loan for this. extending it out for 10 years with a $500,000 down payment, so basically $1.5 million loan. The $500,000 payment is already in the capital budget that we had this fiscal year, and we're carrying it over, so we can use that as a down payment. We're including $20,000 there for street light replacement or new placements for the community. And we're also having $90,000 construction material that can go for sidewalks, survey, or right of way improvements. Just information for this fiscal year, the work that we were able to do. As far as streets, we did 3.3 mile, double chip seal, a little bit of asphalt, but most of it was double chip seal, was about $379,000 of work. We did a lot of curb and gutter and sidewalks, 3,880 linear feet of that. 10,030 linear feet of sidewalks. We did a lot of sidewalk on 8th Street Park, as well as 15th Street Park, and we also did sidewalk around the schools. And we also included 9 EPA racks for this fiscal year.
I don't see that includes striping though, but I don't think we finished that.
Councilmember Lindeman, that's correct. We were trying to get on the county schedule to get us the striping done. We typically contract with our county for that work.
Mr. Pedro, you mentioned the chip sealing up. How many crews or how many employees do we have that do the chip sealing and all that?
Councilmember Grijalva, currently we have 11 positions in her. We have 4 vacancies. We have maybe Lucio can help me with that. I'm not sure exactly how many are dedicated to the streets. We have one for street lights.
We have 2 that are street lights and signage, and well, one is the full time and the other backup, so they do help with that. So currently, I would say that from what we have, it's 5 that are for the street, the one supervisor and one for the street on the site. But we are recruiting 1 for number 3 and 3 number 1's currently, which are going to be also for the number 1. And those are going to be all.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any of the new sidewalks, the construction is gonna be downtown, where it's better, where it's on the intersections or sidewalks. Where and there, a lot of people come to.
Mayor, Councilmember Lonegro, those 90,000 are for, they're not designated for any specific area. Certainly, we have the ability to break those out to the areas that are. So we continue on with the golf course. Basically, same subsidy of $180,000 as we have done in previous years. Mentioned the sale of La Feria apartments, a possible net revenue of $1 million. In your budget package, you'll see it come in as a $5 million sale, because that's what it is, but we have a $4 million loan that paid off, so that net is what comes back to the city, $1 million. For operations, we are recommending the hiring of a golf superintendent, providing them that expertise and assistance to the NPC board. We're also in the process of evaluating the current concessionaire agreement and recommending improvements as a result of those findings.
Probably about 20 to 30 minutes away from finishing, depending on the questions, anybody need a break? We're done.
Ms. Velosa, if I could go back to the golf course. Um, For me, just personally, I don't think you get enough updates. And I know that, you know, that they have their own board there, but I think quarterly updates from the golf course, from the MPC, you know, on their needs, so we can keep, you know, in constant contact. So there's no disconnect there. What exactly is the golf superintendent, what's their job going to be? And how, you know, how would that be different from maybe one of our employees, or if the city were to be running it? What would be their expertise?
Mary Hansel, member, you have an excellent question. So first of all, this is a fully loaded, algorithm. When we did the site audit and trim report, this current fiscal year, we realized the technical expertise required to optimally run a golf course, especially with the, I'm not talking about the clubhouse or the rentals, it's the greens, the water, science that goes into even your optimal water levels, the height of your turf, whether it's bent grass or Bermuda grass, and where the bent grass is and what season it is. So it becomes, we were able to get with the site out of almost a DIY to kind of go on. But the expertise, even in our current staff with the parks, we don't have that specialty. It truly is a specialty. And to reinstate that offers back to where it should be, and train staff certainly can be trained on that. And we know from history that bringing in somebody there, we still have to go through turnover. So the key is to try and incorporate training. We try to contract that things out with that portion of. And at least each room, which does that with, I believe that's and a few other golf courses here in the region. Our revenue base is not enough for them to be interested in helping us carry them. So they suggested, you know, trying to find, even if it's at the daily level, or you may not find someone with a BS in golf, which those degrees do exist, I know that. But having the water training to be able to optimally, now we always hear, for example, down in the summer, especially we have water, and we to sometimes call on our golf course employees to say, you know, they stop watering, you know, kind of at a point where our well is to, you know, more plentiful with water in there to some time. But what the professional told us as part of that side of it is that we're not optimally, we should never have a true each other. So the practices that we currently have are not the benefits according to the professional, and bringing in somebody that can actually handle that and move us along to training is really where we want to be. We still be limited status, hoping that we can retain the person while we can train and get us going and give us some history.
And since the Padilla appointments is possible several $1 million, can we also get a breakdown on how much the green is going to cost to replace, and also the country club? Because if we can remodel that and modernize it and renovate it, that could be a funding source also, right?
Absolutely, yes, we're thinking that when we started the process, we estimated, it's time to refresh that, and the tendency board also is brainstorming. Thank you.
I have an additional question to that. You mentioned that revenue is not enough to lease to an outside company. You mean revenue from the golf course?
We're looking at least $1 million revenues and people are budgeting sizable.
Right, and just to clarify, the 376 total with a 180,000 subsidy. So our revenue is actually much lower than that.
Well, before we leave the subject, I want to bring up again our dream of piping the fluid out there. So that we can save some of our groundwater, we use that for golf course and parks, and things like that, save our groundwater. I also want to put forth, some of those dogs we're great friends of mine, and I'd like to see it, right, an English T-box or a Nick Forsyth T-box or something like that. Doesn't give me rich.
You can find out in the streets of the desert out there. Right.
Thank you. Just comments. Moving on to our airport. Our airport revenue. In the process right now, negotiating the sale of the land around the airport, $2,096,000 is projected. Sale price proceeds will go back to airport improvements as Mr. Camacho mentioned before, and in your package, the capital improvement plan for if that sale was to occur. Today, the capital improvements that we're make is runway rehabilitation, and that thanks to the award of a $1.5 million grant, the state of ADOT Aeronautics Division. And as you know, we're also negotiating that the buyer chip in at least $500,000 towards that sale. We are looking to keep that rehabilitation cost under $2 million, but we noticed there are some design costs of about $2.1 million is what we're looking at right now. We also have another grant for $400,000 that it was for perimeter fencing around the airport. We have that on hold since we are selling the land. So that has to be now take a different path to fence that out. In order to do that, we need to revise our airport layout plan. That's basically how our airport operations are going to look like. Once we sell the land, we need to survey it. So we've sectioned off about $100,000 to do that revision. And $300,000 would be to do the remaining fence and improvements. Mentioned the grants for $100,000 and the $1.5 million. We also have another grant out that we are waiting to hear. And that Saving America's Treasures Preservation Grant to also do it, do runway improvements for the airport. These were kind of simultaneous grants, the $1.5 million and the $750. So we put in for both. We got the $1.5. Still waiting on the $750. $750 is a 1-for-1 match. So we need to match it. If we get the full $750, we need to put in another $750. We're hoping that we can utilize the $1.5 million that is already there for our match. Initiatives, NIMBYs designation application have been submitted to the FAA. So we submitted our packet as a special designation to be considered a NIMBYs airport. Basically, the NIMBYs gives us that federal designation for our airports we currently don't have. It makes us eligible for more federal funding. Consistent federal funding as well as more federal grants that we can apply for.
Mr. Pedrosa, with all these grants and how much we have for them, because the rehabilitation is $2 million, but the complete complete runway was like $4 million, right? I'm sure it's a little bit more now. How much money are we expecting with these grants, and how much we would have with the airport? So I think it's just $2 million. How are you thinking that we're going to have enough for the whole $4 million, or how much are you projected that we get?
Yes, Mayor, Councilmember Grijalva. So this grant is a rehabilitation grant. The $4 million that you're referring to was to fully reconstruct the runway. So reconstructing the runway means you get that down to surface, get down to grade, and redo everything from grade and build that up. This rehabilitation grant includes a 3-inch mill overlay. So basically just more of a maintenance job. The $4 million, you're right, it has gone up. We checked, it's probably close to $7 million now. to really reconstruct the runway. But, with this money, we could certainly put a very good, overlay on the airport and give us a nice clean runway, for some years.
And yeah, Councilmember, we also have that assessed to the best, process moving forward, and we looked at the condition of the runway and thought that the one element would be a very effective way to bring the runway at least to the 2.5 inch now that we are most recently.
Thank you, Anna. Yes, that's correct. The 3 inch may be a little bit, above budget. We are looking to do, 2.5 inch, so we're waiting to get that quote back. Other initiatives, again, the sale of the land around the airport, buyer to contribute that, but also within our contract is a 7% of net revenue for parcels sold. So when if the sale goes through, the buyer were to sell some of those parcels, the city would be entitled to net proceeds out of those sales to the sale for tax.
A while ago, we, remember we brought up the team from the back. Do we know the cost of, to improve them? Because I think those said that they were more efficient.
Yes, Councilmember Grijalvo, Mayor, it's in our capital improvement plan. We sell the airport. It's $20,000 or $30,000 to bring electrical in there and now fit those key hangers with better infrastructure. It's 30,000.
Last year we had, I believe it was 10th Street, and GM going to 8th Street. We had, oil put down this was on top of the street. Before we had a retreat, GM, 10th Street all the way down to 8th. Remember we had, oil reconditioned?
Yeah, it was a box sale that we did a while back ago. I want to say about a year and a half ago.
Can we do that to the driveway there at the airport?
To the main apron.
Yeah.
Certainly that's also part of our capital improvement plan to rejuvenate that. I don't know if it's a fossil or it may need some materials as well. To rebuild that, but definitely that is in need of some service there.
Yeah, marking too. Every time that you will have the extreme climate will be very nice. The problem is to be prepared to fall. We're gonna get.
Thank you. Moving on to our last. The grant division, we're working on that 3-year grant, awarded, we're in year 2. We were awarded a 5339 grant for a new bus, that's to replace one of our connection buses. We're waiting for the final approval from EDOT to allow us to order that bus. Even though we get that award, right now it's taking about 9 to 12 months just to build out a bus, and it might be longer than that. So we may not see that bus until maybe more than a year from now. We continue to apply for grants and new revenue sources sought after, and Freeport Legacy, those are have been some good revenue sources for transit, and the looking to fund the Coaches Connection and another app enhancement, which we have been selling our app to other transit systems to also bring in more revenue. It's been the transit system has seen ridership go up again. As you might expect during the pandemic, we hit, very, very lows in our ridership. So now we are projecting from $35,000 in fare revenue to $55,000. The Bush's connection is now exceeding 1,000 rides per month. We were averaging about 600. And again, continue to market our app to other transit providers. When we go to conferences and we talk to other transit agencies, they're very interested in the app that we developed that made our system more efficient. And as Mayor Council approved recently, the Bush's College continues to like the service we provide them. Basically, we increased that IGA service from 25,000 to 26,000 as a result of fuel costs. It is very, very heavily utilized by students. A lot in Douglas and in Sierra Vista also, we are transporting them to Sierra Vista.
This is our final portion of our budget recommendation today, and we were asked to recall last year, we changed our application process for this section of our considerations. These entities followed that new process and submitted applications that were inclusive of budgets and project scopes and acknowledging that they would also check in throughout the year to provide updates as to how the programs are going. We are waiting on some paperwork on some of them. We're working with the Brexit group, and we have a total that differs from your own, just so that you see a different entry on your memorandum. But we did making connections for you today and working with that organization to submit a packet. So your total here is 27,800. There are no questions on these packets.
I have not so much question, but concern. I love that we have the cleanup of Mata. Again, here in Douglas, I think it's a great event. The only concern I have is basically we're supplying the portable restrooms, the jumping cats, the child care, lighting, and the in-kind staffing. And I'm afraid this is gonna set a precedent. Because what if another group comes in and says, hey, basically just fund my event, you know, you $4,000, mine's gonna be $6,000. I think the jumping castles and the child painting, the lighting, for me, it makes me uncomfortable because then next year, what if we start getting requests of, we didn't think about having this event, but now we want to have it because, the city can help us. That's the only concern I have with that. I don't know if staff share the same concerns, but we're basically providing everything for the event.
I have a question.
Is there any marketing process that goes along with this month? Like how would I, if I am an organization that wants to create a community, like how would I know about the existing funds? And are the funds tied, I guess it goes along with the comment from Mr. Ricardo. Do the funds align with the certain goals and objectives, or is there a policy with more specific information on who gets funded or why?
So I'll try and answer most of those. I don't know the specifics on our application process. So we do, this has been a process that goes back to many years, and it's not necessarily marketed. It started as just requesting from DARC, some of the, I think that's probably the longest standing one, so just probably originally about 50 years. But it started to grow for those reasons, and we developed a compromise so that we would have a consistent process and some scope and some guidelines, so that we can also furnish back to city council some of the benefits and acceptance from those programs for their use in future considerations for The marketing has still not been great with us. It is word of mouth and it's on the website. Those that we know have asked in the past, even though they're not in the list, we have mailed things out and we're trying to push it on. And I think another question I answered, is that basically it?
I think the other one was like, also, were there any guidelines or?
According to the program policy, the goal is to fund programs offered by community organizations and institutional interests that benefit the residents of Douglas. And the goal is accomplished by providing funding for health, human and or quality of life services for the residents of Douglas.
Perfect, that's another, maybe.
Any other questions?
You're gonna be going back to some of the sites that we saw, but I was just wondering, the materials that are being purchased to make improvements to the building. And those being bought by companies here in the village.
With the, are you talking about the 500,000 for improvements at the building?
Yeah, this will be some of them are for purchasing materials. Or purchasing some of
No, I already. The chair, member Watson, the primary, dedication for that one was to upgrade HVAC, electrical, plumbing, and most of that, has been done locally. Materials, I'm not sure those the contractors buy those elsewhere.
Yes, we did electrical, hiring a local contractor that was electrical, we did HVAC, and we hired Bird Construction for that. That's where we're at right now. We're actually finishing up some other electrical components. And after that, we have to kind of decide which other areas we're gonna start improving as well, depending on the type of roaster and what they require.
Thank you.
There are no further questions. That concludes our presentation. I want to that we have an awareness that we still have some renewals on liability insurance that will come back to the council. As soon as that becomes available to us, and so we have the final stage of revenues that always arrive after this process. So we do our best to project those out. So there's a few tweaks that are coming. And then the next slide, please. These are the things that I want to make sure that everybody's aware. So as I can recall, the full tweaks that launch. And then by mid-week next week, we will also have distribution of the full partnership packet. We requested either input or outcome. And this to and then June 5th is we slated for finance committee for their recommendation to their council. June 7th as the second review of mayor and council in the work session. And then we go to the June 14th kind of budget adoption and the July 12th on adoption. So those are in your packet and we will be reaching out to make sure we have availability at least at the forum level with both bodies. Thank you again.
So the council then, so I'm gonna take a quick picture for time capsule. So I'm here for that. You get it now.
June 7th. Thank you, everybody.
very much, staff, for the, tonight's call. Way as far as you just agree to follow, appreciate that, greatly. And appreciate, the finance committee so much for taking the time on that, busy schedule. To be with us, it's wonderful to see this community input, we really appreciate it. With that, we'll move on to, item number 9, adjournment. I have a motion from the council for adjournment. Mayor, move that we adjourn. Second, motion by Mr. Hall, second by Mr. Closer to adjourn. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Vote for the same, by name. Ayes have it. The council stands adjourned. Matt, whatever that clock says. 7:26.
I don't think I have a motion to adjourn to the finance committee.
I move that we adjourn.
Motion by Mr. Rose, and we have a second. Second by Mr. Nail, more in favor? Aye. Thank you very much.
Yeah.